Good morning. We'll call the Criminal Justice Committee meeting to order on Wednesday, October 12th. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hess?
Present.
Mr. Long?
Present.
Mr. Lear?
Present.
Mr. Snipes? Ms. Peters?
Present.
Ms. Parker?
Present.
Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Swanson? Mr. Kirkstra?
Present.
Mr. Hunter?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
Mr. Gowler? Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Seroy? We have a quorum.
I have not received anything for public comment. Is there anything for public comment now? Anything for public comment? Moving on. The approval of the minutes from September 14th, 2022. Ms. Peters, second by Mr. Hunter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Up next, Chief Judge, Mr. Cunnington.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just a couple things to report on this morning. An update on the Associate Judge Act that if you're, just to repeat maybe what I've said before, but we're, our circuit, our county is due to lose an associate judge because of the drop in the census. There was legislation passed in the Senate to basically undo that change because there's a feeling and some statistical data that maybe the census wasn't real valid because of COVID. Wasn't, not everyone was counted that should have been counted. So there is legislation that has passed the Senate. It's somewhat stalled in the House right now. The latest that we've received from the Conference of Chief Judges is that the legislation is not going to come up in the veto session, which starts November 15th after the election. And if there's any hope to have it passed, it'll be in the spring session. So how that affects Kankakee, the next associate to retire from office or to leave office will not be filled. The associate judges are filled by appointment of the circuit judges. The circuit judges are elected. So we do have an election November 8th, and Judge Slawinski is running. He is running he is currently an associate running for the Judge Kramer's circuit position, and then Kenneth Wright is also running for that circuit position. The winner of that, if it's Judge Slawinski wins that election, then we will not be able to fill his associate position and we'll be down one judge. The only good news is we will have the same number of courtrooms that we have for judges. Right now we have been down a courtroom, but and then if Kenneth Wright wins the election, then Judge Slawinski will retain his associate position. The other thing I wanted to just mention is the Conference of Chief Judges has been working on the Safety Act. There's been meetings every 2 weeks taking a different topic and dealing with it. There is a legislation that's been proposed by Senator Bennett in Champaign that is getting bipartisan support to make some corrections to the Safety Act. And Pritzker, you've probably read in the newspapers that Governor Pritzker has indicated some willingness to take a look at those. I don't want to comment anymore on the Safety Act. We do have pending litigation at the courthouse right now, so I can't really talk about that. But that's all I wanted to report today. I think you'll hear some more about these topics, but and maybe Chairman Wheeler can talk about the basement. I think that's on your agenda.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Any questions for the Chief Judge?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Ms. Cianci from the Circuit Clerk's office. In your package, you have a copy of the monthly report. Take a motion to approve. Mr. Eckhoff, second by Mr. Smith. Good morning, Sandy.
Good morning.
Comments on your report?
I don't have any. Everything is business as usual. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Sandy on the report? Have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Basement project.
So we've been very busy finishing up getting the files to the microfilm company and to the shredder. We have one more pickup probably of the microfilming, and we'll probably have one more date with the shredder company as well. Monday we worked and we delivered 160 what they call tips of shredding, which was kind of like the size of the garbage cans that you put out every week. About 5 or 6 women hauled them all the way out of the basement, up the ramp, and to the shredding truck. So we worked really hard. We filled 2 trucks, and it was a lot of work. But we are happy that we're so close. May I borrow this for a minute? Because I didn't get that copy. So we are planning. I'm working with Chairman Wheeler and Wes, and we're gonna move my exhibits and those old books that I have. I'm gonna just go ahead and move those to the treasurer's building for now, and because there's a lot of other fine points that we need to go through with some other stuff, so it'll just be helpful if I put it all over there, and then we can work through it as we have time. In your packets you have the compilation of all of the shelving units that we have down in the basement that we are ready to get rid of. And Andy, if you can talk a little more about how we're going to go about that.
Thank you. 11, thank you. There's a couple of moving pieces still with this. We're looking at doing, and we're most likely 99% chance sure we're going to do an event on Saturday. I believe that's the 22nd. I don't know. I don't have a calendar here sitting in front of me.
Something like that. Yeah, I think it is.
It's Saturday the 22nd, where we're gonna do a head nod surplus here, because we didn't have this list for the agenda, but we'll make all these items surplus, and then instead of just throwing them away or sending them to the recycler, we're gonna let the public come in, and if they want a filing cabinet, they can grab a filing cabinet. If they want any of the metal shelves that are left, they can grab a metal shelf. The wood shelves were being demoed by the contractor because they were made in place and then nailed together in the basement. So I think, my own opinion, for our people to go down there and try to separate those, it's a liability issue for us. And plus they're gonna have to be broken down anyway, because get them in the dumpster. You wouldn't want to have all this extra space taken up by shelves that are still. So they will be demoed in place. So we want to give away as much as we can, and we're working on that. The taxpayers paid for it, they can come pick it up, but not many people use filing cabinets anymore. So the last piece is to talk to the recycler about getting a dumpster there on site or something to get it over to the recycling for the metal. Once we know that, then they could be there and we have that process nailed down, then we'll do announcements over Facebook and things like that. So things like the metal desks, and we're going to surplus all of the current jury assembly chairs. If somebody wants to come and pick up one of those super comfortable chairs, wow. I think they probably come and destroy them if you've ever served on a jury because they're that uncomfortable. It's that kind of stuff that we're planning. We're going to demo everything at once in the basement, so we can't have stuff just laying around. Right. So that's pretty much the process for right now. And I think we're set for the 7th will be the day that work starts of November in the basement over there.
Mr. Hunter, you had something?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman. When can we review or view the materials, the items?
It'll be noon on that Saturday. We're going to bring them up out of there. We're going to go to the farmer's market, I think, and have like a booth there telling people, maybe take some pictures and show them what's there. But we don't have a lot of manpower to be carrying stuff around, loading people's trucks, that kind of stuff. So we got to come up with the rules, but it's just basic filing cabinets. That's really all that's left. It's some metal shelves, and there's not that many of those either. We're saving some metal shelves for these really thick tome books they used to use. I don't know what they're called, but the chief judge said, one said feeble-mindedness on it, and the chief judge gave it to me and said I was in there, which I appreciated. But it's just the way they used to keep those records back from 1909. We want to keep those. They don't necessarily have to have them, but we want to keep them because we think there's some historical value there. Right. So that's what's going over in the treasurer's office.
Is there any heat in the treasurer's office?
No,
Are
don't
we
really-
afraid these big books are gonna mold?
Well-
it's a temporary thing. We
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
get
okay.
them out of there, and so we're gonna figure out what the long term is once they're out of there.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is not a permanent solution.
Okay.
yeah. And
That's-
just like the long term, like the evidence from cases from 1920, we're gonna keep those locked up somewhere as well. Those will go back into the courthouse, but those books will not.
Okay.
They'll go somewhere else. Maybe the Historical Society, maybe something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can't vote on this, but we could move this or get a head nod from this committee and move it to executive, so we get a vote on it before the county board.
Right.
Everybody sort of agree with that? Okay, we'll move it on to executive then.
Very good.
Case management system.
So the case management software update, we spent 2 full days watching 2 different vendors' presentations. We were very impressed by all of the above. We can't wait. So now the next step is going to be we're still picking like what parts we need from that or what we would like to have, and then getting down to, I guess, submitting to the person which one we want. Is that how it goes? Because this part I didn't participate in last time, so I'm not
The
100% sure.
basically each group, like the clerk's office, they viewed their part of the software. Other people sat in with them. The judges all viewed their part for both of our vendors. They were going to get together, kind of talk about what their thoughts were, and then I would say the leaders of those groups were going to get together and basically decide, well, who are we going to move forward with and negotiate a price with, based on, does probation want to use the new system, or do they like the one they're currently using right now? Well, there's a cost to that. So if we don't have to spend it, so we need to figure that stuff out. And once we do, this is going to be a pretty quick process. I would imagine within a month we're pretty heavily in negotiations with the choice. I would say in the next week or so we're going to get together to kind of compare notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done so with Mr. Long was part of it. He could speak to the process too if
Yeah.
he's been part of it as well.
He was there for both days.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to say that both companies put on a great presentation, and I feel like I learned a lot about the process, and looking forward to something that will help save manpower hours and make things happen a little more quickly with less effort. And I think at the end of the process, we're going to have a great system.
Yep.
Good. Any other questions or comments on that? Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, State's Attorney's Office, Grand Jury Report and Grand Jury Statistic Report. Mr. Coughlin, take a motion to approve. Mr. Carrico, second by Mr. Snipes. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Put you on the spot.
That's all right. Mr. Chairman, how are you?
Wonderful.
Morning, everybody. As of the recent grand jury returned 24 true bills. We also have a breakdown of the cases that we've had up until yearly basis. As Judge Cunnington mentioned, there's current litigation about the Safety Act. Our office was the first in the state to file a lawsuit trying to find the act unconstitutional. Currently, I believe it's up, as of yesterday, I think there were up 51 counties, 51 state's attorneys in the state have filed similar lawsuits to challenge that act. And there's a lot of working together with the other offices to go forward this on hopefully on an expedited schedule. Other than that, I'd answer any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Snipes?
Just to, I know the cost involved, but my question is, with the trailer bills and many of the amendments are supposed to be happening before the January 1st date, will it make the case moot at some point if they make the necessary changes?
Our position is that you can't fix an unconstitutional act. We have alleged that for a variety of reasons that the bill is unconstitutional for 5 or 6 different reasons. We'll see how that plays out in court. Obviously, that's something that we don't know how that's going to go. But if the state's attorneys in the state are cooperating on both, on both areas, and that if the trailer bills go through, great. But we're hoping to have our litigation have a ruling at some point in time prior to the January 1st.
Okay, so I'm assuming that the 51 is more going south than north. Out of the 102 counties, that's about half. So the concern I would have is certainly the safety bill needs some work done, but there were some good things that happened in it, and we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater when I'm saying the like the body cams and things of nature. Those bills, are we looking to trash all of it, tell them to start all over again, or are we attacking certain issues as non-constitutional?
We're attacking the whole bill. That the bill was unconstitutional the way it was passed. Nobody argues that there was not a lot of needed changes that took place in that bill. Problem is that if it's unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional. I mean, we are sworn to uphold the law, and if we believe that laws are unconstitutional, we have to go. We're going against that. But the way we view it, this isn't political. This is pure and simple. This is a public safety issue. And that's in the group that has filed lawsuits. We've got a pretty even mix of Democrats and Republicans. So this is by both parties, state's attorney's office throughout the state that believe that this is unconstitutional.
Okay, and the last question is whether or not, what's the position of the Illinois Attorney General? Has he taken a position, or is he just winking and watching?
The Illinois Attorney General is on the other side, so they are our opponents.
Okay.
And General Raul is also one of the named defendants in his official capacity.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, John. Up next, Mr. Pennewick from the Public Defender's Office. In the package, you have a copy of the monthly report. Take a motion to approve. Ms. Peters, second by Mr. Long.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ed. Comments on your report, sir?
Good morning, everyone. I have no comments. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. What?
I've got nothing to add at this point.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Probation, Mr. Latham. In the package, you have a copy of the monthly report. Take a motion to approve. Mr. Eckhoff, it's Ms. Peters. Morning, Tom.
Good morning. Nothing to add to the report, just one of our field officers broke their foot. It was a pretty bad break, so they're out for a while, but we're working on coverage, but as you can see, some of the contacts were down a little bit because of that. So hopefully that heals before the ice.
Any comments, questions for Tom on the report? Do we have a motion and a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Pretrial service.
Well, really no update right now. It's since last month. I have a meeting today in Bloomington, which a large part of the discussion is going to be about that. So I'm hoping next month I have a little more for you. Good news though is we did fill 2 of the 3 vacancies we've had that I've been talking about every time I'm here for a long time. So that's good news. We're only down 1 right now. So we'll keep trying. See how it happens, but they should start a week from Monday. So we'll be having just 1 vacancy seems full staff. So that's good news.
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with the I won't say phase 1 and phase 2 changes of late. What type of impact do you see to your budget going forward with pretrial? I know we've talked about all these different scenarios, and really I'm not confused on it. I just don't know which model to follow. Are we gonna have to hire a bunch of people for pretrial?
Well, we're putting the numbers together right now to see if we have 5 positions right now for pretrial. They're funded by the state for pretrial. I would guesstimate now a few more, but we'll fine tune those numbers, the stats, and see what we need. But you're talking a shift of maybe 7 or 8 people that we didn't, we thought we were gonna lose the 5, that was gonna go away. And then now it could be we gain a few more. The few positions I don't think would be available until July. In their budget, there's a way we could get a few positions possibly before then, but I don't think it'll be until July until they get their budget. But that's the swing. We thought we were gonna lose 5, and now we're, looking at 7.
Would there be grant and aid, 80% grant and aid positions?
All of them be grant and aid.
So
they would have to know
20% plus benefits and pension or more local.
It's 100% for the grant and aid.
Even for the pension and benefits?
Well, no, not that. That would be that's our cost. We talked about that before.
Yeah, that adds another 30% of their pay onto.
Yeah, the salary would be fully,
right,
grant and aid.
right. Okay.
It would have to be. So.
In this state, you never know.
I know. But that's a lot about the meeting. We're going to talk about at our meeting today. It's just try to work. I mean, this was kind of thrown on us, and really, I keep saying at every meeting it's discussed as if this was always the plan, but there's been nothing, sent to the chief judge or me or anybody that says, here's the change in direct. But we just know that's happening. So now we start planning for it. So, like I said before, we're going to have more people on pretrial than probation. But probation numbers aren't going down. It's a different, we're not moving one group to the other side of the hallway. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, so we'll see how it goes.
Once again, we get the mandates like the public defender gets so much, and that our budget comes in the end of the year, and they come in the middle of the year. So where do we go with that?
And like I said, I mean, you have to have those people in place and trained, and I gripe about vacancies now. But when we have the numbers I'm afraid we're gonna have, your biggest fear is something happens, something falls through the cracks, and that's what we worry about all the time. And so that's, just sit, like I said before, sit on our hand, not sit on our hand, but just didn't really work towards anything with pretrial for about 14 months, because it was gonna be taken over by the state. Then it's all of a sudden hurry up and get ready. So we'll be ready. But
any other questions for Tom? You want to mention the 21st?
Yep, the 21st. Kelly, I sent that to you late. I'm sorry I don't know if you got it out to everybody, but it just went out. Okay, yeah. But the 21st, 6 o'clock, Knights of Columbus. I sent Kelly the information with the link to buy tickets for the drug court auction. So first one in what, 2 years? 2 years, first in-person auction. So should be a good event, good turnout. So any questions, anybody can give me a call.
And if you guys haven't been there, it's well worth it. Believe me.
It's a good event.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Up next, Sheriff. In the package, you have a copy of the monthly report. Take a motion to approve. Ms. Parker, second by Mr. Eckhoff. Good morning again.
Good morning. Good morning. Couple things on the report. One of the things that kind of jumps out based on what we were anticipating is that if you look at under 1A to the far right, that number $340,000 no longer has parentheses around it, which would mean we would have been down. We are actually $340,000 higher this year than we were last year, which, based on everything that happened over the course of last year with losing ice, we didn't think that was possible. So that's a positive. I think in early fiscal year 2022, if you remember, we were early down over $100,000 compared to last year. So we have, our jail administrator has done well in working with the feds and Champaign County, and those numbers have significantly increased. We are anticipating, based on our numbers, to be up around $500,000 by the end of the fiscal year. So that's a positive. One of the downsides of that, which is a downside I think at every jail right now, is staffing. Our staffing levels are down significantly. In fact, I'll talk a little bit about our jail inspection later on after we get through the agenda. But staffing obviously is a problem, which creates overtime. So that is what we're working on at the present time. On the sworn side, another item that sticks out and in a good way is that in fiscal year 21, there were 20 homicides in Kankakee County. Through September, we're at 8. One's too many, but that is a significant decrease from the year before, and we hope that that trend continues. Everything else on the report is pretty much standard. If there's any questions on the report.
Any questions on the report? We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
What's next?
Safety Act.
Safety Act. All right. So when Mr. Rowe failed to mention that he was going to present his PowerPoint last month, I told you that I would have mine this month, and I will briefly go through it as quickly as I possibly can. I don't want to keep you guys here any longer. We could talk about this all day. So to start, so what is the Safety Act? House Bill 3653. For those of you that may not remember, this was originally House Bill 163. It was refiled as House Bill 3653 when witness slips filed or filled out by citizens overwhelmingly opposed House Bill 163. So they did an end around and changed the number. So then they didn't have as many opposition slips. It's dubbed as the Safety, Accountability, Fairness, and Equity Act. It was passed by the legislature in the middle of the night on January 13th and signed into law by Governor Pritzker on February 22nd. Now, Mr. Snipes mentioned early that there were some positives in this bill, and there are. And these are things that we have talked about, trying to take the positive out of what amounts to 760 pages. There are some positives. The first one is additional training. There's not a cop in the world who would decline additional training for the job we do. And there is additional training that is mandated, that larger departments probably won't have a problem getting. Smaller departments, on the other hand, may struggle a little bit when you talk about cost, and I'll mention that there's some information in the next slide about that. Mandated body-worn cameras, something that we had talked about for a long time. Obviously, the issue was the cost, but mandating those cameras is key. And I've said to this committee numerous occasions that body-worn cameras will protect police officers 99.9% of the time. And they have already for us. We've had them since, I believe, last June. We weren't required to have them until January of 23, based on our county's population. However, we moved forward early, and they have been beneficial for us. Certification and the decertification process of police, another good thing. And I say that because nobody wants a bad cop on your staff. Nobody wants bad cops out there, not even other cops. So that in and of itself is a good thing. So some of the safety concerns of 3653. The issue with the training is there's no additional funding for training. A roundabout way to defund the police, if you will, because as you as the county board provide us money, and that money is going to have to come from somewhere to provide training for our staff. So if you take money for training, you're going to have to cut money somewhere else, and the biggest part of our budget obviously is personnel. So that is a method or a way to defund the police. There was no funding for body-worn cameras. There have been limited grants, which we have successfully received for the equipment only. And we are actually in the process of implementing body-worn cameras in the jail in addition to the road. And Senator Joyce actually got us $150,000 to purchase those cameras. So that'll be beneficial as well in the jail, because we have the same issues in the jail. And so that will be, we do have body cameras in the jail now, but not everybody has them. So you're limited as to what you actually collect when you're looking at the body-worn cameras that we have. So that'll be a big plus for us. The major cost of body-worn cameras, however, is the storage, which we have said for years. The storage, the redaction required when we get a FOIA, and the personnel to complete it. These are all additional things that will ultimately affect the sheriff's office budget when you talk about trying to have somebody respond to a FOIA, and you have to redact, you have to find everything, and so again, these are costs that aren't included in this bill, which could be detrimental to a lot of law enforcement budgets. Complaints on the police. Part of 3653, you can now make an anonymous complaint against the police, and that complaint, whether it's founded or unfounded, will stay in that officer's personnel file for life. Now think about that for a minute. Think about your job and what you guys do away from here, and if you got some accusation made against you, and that sticks with you for life, whether it's founded or unfounded. All I can say is thank God for body-worn cameras. So this is, in the scheme of things, this sounds so minuscule, but overall, at this point right now, if we were to get a call for somebody trespassing, police officers can show up. If the person decides not to leave, we would make an arrest. Obviously, the best case scenario is the police get called, we ask the person to leave, and he leaves, and nothing happens. That's best case scenario. So think about this. You and your spouse return home from dinner, find an intoxicated subject, barely clothed, sitting in your front yard drinking a bottle of hard liquor. After several requests for him to leave, he begins swearing at you and destroying parts of your yard. Currently, this subject will be arrested for disorderly conduct and possibly criminal damage. However, after January 1st of 23, this subject would be given a citation and requested to leave your property on his own will. If he doesn't leave, then what? We can't arrest him. Problem is, property owners, business owners are going to end up taking matters into their own hand. And what that's going to create the victim, the property owner or the business owner, who takes matters into his own hands, now becomes the offender. The offender who just did this on your property now becomes the victim. So it's problematic. So cash bail, basically the bottom line and all that's written up there is judges no longer have discretion. And I said a long time ago, and I caught a little flack for it, but I said, cashless bail isn't a anti-law enforcement, it's anti-judge. It's taking away the job judges do. And they no longer have discretion to set bail regardless of the state. So judges no longer set a cash bail. Certain offenses will result in certain individuals being detained, but the state will have to have the burden of demonstrating to the court why someone should be considered a danger to society or a flight risk. Prior failure to appear in court, and you know, we have over 6,000 warrants in Kankakee County, most for failure to appear. Failure to appears are not included in whether or not that person is a flight risk. So the elimination of cash bail will only allow those nonviolent offenders that are currently sitting in jail, waiting trial, a chance to be released similarly to those afforded the opportunity now simply because they have the finances to accommodate their release. One myth that's out there that I'm sure you've heard, that there are mothers sitting in jail for 6 months who stole a package of diapers and they're unable to post bond, which the misdemeanor retail theft, the bond is going to be $1,000, 10%, so the individual is going to need $100 to bond out of jail. This is the example that I'm sure you've heard the governor say 50 times. Reality, bail reform actually occurred back in January of 2018. The Illinois legislature addressed this issue by passing legislation creating Category A and Category B offenses. Category B offenders are given $30 per day credit towards their bond needed to be released from jail. So they don't have to post any money. They have to sit in jail until that $30 credit equals their bond. So in the case of the example of the mother who stole diapers, misdemeanor retail theft is a Category B offense. She would need $100 cash or 3 days in jail before being released. She would not spend 6 months in jail. But these are the things that are out there that we, you know, those of us who are doing this every day, we see every day, and those that are out there, you know, trying to argue for it don't have a clue. In fact, I would guess that 98% of police officers in that position to arrest a mother who's stealing diapers, 98% would more than likely issue a notice to appear, which means they give them a notice and say, show up in court on this date, or some would even go as far as paying for those diapers themselves. As most of you know, Jim Rowe and I have worked for years to prevent nonviolent offenders from being incarcerated while they await their trial. On July 28th, I posted on my social media page that clearly demonstrates who we have in custody and what their charges are. Now, you've probably all seen people talk about who's going to be released from jail once 3653 or once the elimination of cash bail takes effect on January 1st. There will be local inmates who will be released due to this legislation. However, I would challenge anyone to consider those currently in custody based on their prior record and their charges that any should be released. So who's committing most of our serious crimes, or all of them? So we booked in over 25,000 people in the last 8 years. However, only a total of over 11, just almost 12,000 different people, meaning the same people that are out are the ones who are recommitting. So that gives you some idea that it's not, you know, we don't have 25,000 different people out there committing crimes. We have, you know, 11,000 that are providing most of the problems in our county. So the impacts of cashless bail. Go ahead. So proponents say those in custody can't afford to post bail. So far this year, we've collected over $980,000 in cash, and we've collected over $250,000 in credit, and we've collected $14,210 in bond fee money, which is a fee to post bond, which is by statute, which will go away too, by the way. So we've collected over $1 million in 8 months from people who posted cash bail. So I ask you, and this is even to this day, what is the incentive to show up to court when there's no money posted? I mentioned earlier we have over 6,000 bench warrants. 98% are for failure to appears. So that number will skyrocket. Well, I take that back. It'll skyrocket after a process, because now the first option the court has isn't to issue a bench warrant. They have to issue a rule to show cause, which is a paper that has to be served by the sheriff, which creates an undue burden on 102 sheriff's offices across the state of Illinois. So types of arrests made by each agency are made, so this is broken down by agency, but the grand totals, there were 647 felony arrests last year. There's been 453 so far this year. The average length of stay per arrest type, this is somewhat interesting. In calendar year 21, the average length of stay was 50 days. For felonies, it was 127 days. For misdemeanors, 24.1 days. For traffic, less than 1 day. And for warrant arrests, 25 days. Those numbers are somewhat similar for 22. Now remember that all of these numbers include those that were here for, especially the traffic, those that were here for 3 hours, and those that were here for 6 months, depending on what their traffic offense was. So we have argued and we've talked about options and what are options to cashless bail. New Jersey is probably the best example. If you have an opportunity, I would Google New Jersey's bail laws. They did a lot of research on it. They didn't jam something through at 4 o'clock in the morning. They did a lot of research on cashless bail, and it has seemed to work fairly well. When you talk about trying to reinvent the wheel, this is reinventing the wheel. It would be in the state's best interest to look at other options to, make this, from a sheriff's position. I mean, obviously we want to keep our community safe. 3653 in a number of ways does not do that. So I would end with that. And like I said, I could talk about it for another 4 hours, but I know your time is valuable, so that's all I got.
Questions? Mr. Hunter first.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff Downey, you mentioned that you have 6,000 pending bench warrants for failure to appear, essentially, right?
That's correct.
And you indicated that as of 1/1/23, what number will that escalate to, or will it go higher, or what?
It ought to go higher,
okay.
No doubt.
You
no
indicate
doubt.
that, and I already knew the answer to that because you intimated that. Now, I'm concerned about what impact that's going to have on the court system.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously there are things that weren't thought through. And those are things that, obviously we hope at some point get addressed.
Okay. I know that you're involved and probably the more outspoken person with the Illinois Sheriff's Association.
Me?
What concerns me is that, House Bill 3653, which you indicated that anonymous complaints can be filed, and those remain in a person's officer's file, whether they're founded or unfounded. I would ask you, and I'm sure you probably have a finger on the pulse of your organization, as of November 15th, will you guys be going down to Springfield to testify during veto session?
That I don't know. I'm not aware of if they're having it. I mean...
that's going to be, a hullabaloo down there.
Yes, it is.
November 15th. But I would assume that you would probably be going down there with, knapsack and there for the duration. But keep us posted.
I will do. Thank you.
Ms. Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering if there's any direction that you could give to property owners that would be allowable to, for example, you go out with a dog that's barking loudly and he accidentally bites the man on your own property. I'm not letting him, you know, but the dog is on its own property and protecting its own property. What are some hints that you could give to property owners?
Well, I guess
if anything,
the easy answer would be that as law enforcement, we're not going to let you hang you out to dry, if that makes any sense. I mean, we're going to do what we can to get that subject removed from your property. However, some people won't like what we have to do, what we're required to do, so they may take matters into their own hands, and at that point, we don't have much option. So,
right, that's what I'm.
But we will not let people hang out to dry.
Thank you.
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess, we hear a lot about the hyperbole from one side of mainly directed to people who are against this bill, being reactionary, being, what's the other word? I'm sorry.
Actually, we have been referred to as liars, fearmongers, and racists.
Yeah, fearmongers is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw a for instance out there. Say I leave here and somebody follows me or is driving down the street and they point a gun at me, stop their car in front of mine for no ever stated reason, just totally random out of the blue. That person now would get arrested and they could be bailed out, and on 1-1 they could be arrested, but that's not a crime that they would keep you for because there's no specific intent to go against one person for a specific reason. Is that the case?
Based on what you're saying, that's probably true, but I would certainly defer to the attorneys who know a lot more about it than I do.
Because that's what I just described happened to LG Sims in Springfield.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he decried the cashless bail system, saying that, by the way, he's the author of the crime bill.
Yeah.
He said, this is why we need cashless bail. This person was able to pay their money to get out. Well, going forward, they're not even going to have to pay any money and get out.
Right. That's correct.
Okay? So I would say the fear-mongering is coming from the other direction.
Yeah.
And it's obvious.
Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that bothers me about the bill is the lack of due process when there's complaints against our police officers. It's been my experience over time, many years, that police officers who don't deserve to be in that job don't last very long. And so it's taken the local decision away from you, the sheriff, or the police chief, and someone remote from here who has no skin in our game is going to make that decision for us.
Yes.
I don't like that. There's no due process.
And that's the drawback to it, is the due process. I mean, nobody, as I said before, nobody wants to work with a bad cop. And it's up to, obviously we can't police ourselves anymore. This is a matter of going through a agency in Springfield who's going to make that determination for us.
It's a trust issue.
Yes.
I think, it's been my experience here in our community that is not a problem here. Maybe it's a problem in some other entity, but I don't think that's a
maybe
problem
Cook
here.
County, like everything else this bill's
Okay, Cook. Let's use that for
designed
an
after.
example.
I mean,
Yeah, designed it.
yeah, I mean, this bill was written for Cook County, plain and simple.
Let's let it be a test bed in Cook County first.
That's been suggested.
Oh,
That's been suggested.
yeah,
And-
let them go.
If there's 100 of 102 states attorneys that are against this bill, that should tell somebody something.
Well, and as I think Mr. Coughlin mentioned, this it's not a political issue. Well, it's not a political issue amongst us. This is a public safety issue. The legislators will tell you differently that it is a political issue down in Springfield. So, again, we're at the whim of Springfield, which is unfair to our local community.
Any other questions on this?
What's next? Animal control?
Animal control,
Yeah.
yes.
So there have been an influx. I mentioned this last month, I believe, or somewhere, that there's been an influx of dogs and cats from Florida, from the hurricane, to the Chicago area. And you might think, well, why does that affect us? It limits some shelters from up north from taking some of our animals. And so obviously that affects our local animal population. However, Carrie and her staff have done well in identifying adoptable dogs, even though we don't necessarily want to be in the adoption business. They have started to adopt some out to good homes, which has been a plus as well. So we're battling that population with our animals as well. So, but they've done a great job in identifying those animals that are adoptable and getting them to good families. And I would reiterate that any of the good families out here who would like one, go talk to Carrie. We'd be more than happy to set you up with a new pet. So.
Tinker's smiling.
Anybody?
Tinker's always got room for one.
Right? Is that it?
Okay.
All right, couple things. We had a recent jail inspection from the Illinois Department of Corrections. I believe it was back in August, and we just got the report at the end of September. There were no non-compliances at Jerome Combs. The one recommendation that I mentioned earlier was about staffing. However, it is a staffing issue that is going across the state. Every county is struggling to hire correction staff. So we continue to work on that. We continue to reach out to both colleges locally. Any job fairs that we can get to, I would, we go to. If you hear of something that, you may not see us on the list for some job fair, please let us know, because we will get somebody there. The full board just approved a new contract yesterday, which I'm sure that our corrections staff is grateful for. And so it is there are a lot of incentives in that new contract and pretty good money. So we'll continue to try to find employees. And then lastly, I just want to mention kudos to Jim Rowe for being the first to file the lawsuit in regards to the Safety Act. It took a lot of guts to be the first one, and again, as Mr. Coughlin talked about, from being from the same party as the ones who passed this legislation. That to him, it's a credit to him that he's not, it's not about the politics, it's about doing what's right. And that's definitely a credit to him to help our community. So we are appreciative of that, and hopefully we'll get a good result out of it.
Mr. Snipes.
I guess thanks for sharing that information, but the way the paper made it look as if it came out of Will County as the first one that filed.
Jim was the first one to file, and I mean, it obviously not a race, or but Jim was the first one to file, filed locally, and phones started blowing up shortly after he filed, and it just took one person to file it before obviously the other 50 people or so jumped on board. There will be, I'm guessing there will be some more who will jump on board before it's all said and done. And I know that there are some who are still working to maybe make some changes that they can make. As you said, keeping some of the good things in it that we want to see. But if we have to blow it up and start over, then so be it. But let's do it right instead of at 4 in the morning.
And I noticed that 107,000 number of individuals that are in, but that's a percentage of what in our county as far as our total population of
10?
recidivists? About
10%?
Right.
Yeah.
That's causing 90% of the problem.
Well, that's an old management theory. I mean, 10% of your employees cause 90% of your problems.
Yeah,
I mean,
but a 20/80 rule,
yeah. So.
Anything else for the sheriff? Ms. Peters.
Just could you remind everybody that the farm vehicles are out, and this year seems to be the comments from the guys working the field, driving the tractors and combines down the road, that the drivers are excessively aggressive towards them.
Okay.
And
We will put something out on social
they
media.
move slow and they're large. You're going to lose.
Yeah, you will lose. Yes, definitely. Yeah, we'll put something out on social media.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Coroner's Office, Mr. Gessner. In the package, you have a copy of the monthly reports and the monthly receipts of money. Take a motion to combine and approve them. Mr. Long and Mr. Smith. Good morning, sir.
Good morning there, Captain.
Your report?
I report for September. You can see that basically we're still on the uprise with the autopsies, and basically our numbers are a little different than what the sheriff's are, because he's got 8 homicides. We have 10. We start in December, and they start in January. So other than that, the suicides have been up also, which in turns takes us a little bit more that we have to take out of the autopsy fund usually on that aspect. I'll take any questions on that. Pretty well self-explanable.
Any questions on the reports? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Well, you know, something it's truly a lot into my heart that I have to tell you right now, that the overdoses are on a rise. We have 32 overdose cases right now, and we have 10 pending, which is definitely going to hit overdoses. So we're going to probably be in the 40s, and we still got October, which is already come up on us, and we have November yet. So I hope we don't break our record of 56 there, but it's sure, with all the problems we're having out there right now, it could be close. Which intends basically tells us that, which the good news is that I'm back out on the streets again. So I go to Herscher High School today. We're going to talk about the drugs and what the problems are in this county with the number of particular fentanyl and cocaine and the new drug, xylazine, that's out there. It's a veterinarian drug that's out. We've had a possible 3 cases already since July. Fentanyl is huge, so I'm going to go out there and talk to them. Then I'm meeting tomorrow with Jim Rowe has invited me to come to a pastor's brunch over here at the rec center. He gets probably around 65 people there. I'm going to talk about it there, and then I'll be en route out to Grant Park to their high school. Moments has already issued that they want me to come out there. Also, several other schools, St. Anne, Mantino. We're looking to go 100% after this because of the danger that's in our county right now. You can't understand what we see and what's happening. 44 years is the average age, but I want to get to the low end of the children as they grow up and know what's out there, and they should know that too. I've been there before. I'll show a PowerPoint today, nothing graphic, but tells us a story about what's going on in this county. It has to be done. It's bothersome to us. It's costing us a lot of money in my budget, and I feel if I can get out there and talk about this possibility, we can bring the numbers down a little bit as we did before when we were able to get out there. So anybody wants me to come to any of their functions, their church functions, whatever, be more than happy. Eric and either one of us will make that agenda. Health department's going with me today to talk about their teachers' possibility, make sure that they all have the Narcans. if we didn't have Narcan right now, just for the 22 saves have been made this year, just the police department. That's not counting EMS. That's not counting the emergency rooms. Our number could be way up there. So we got the grant back again, and we're going to go after as much as we can. You know I like to talk, so, and I'll be out there.
Questions, Ms. Parker?
Coroner, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you issue a warning about Halloween's coming up in a couple of weeks? And we're all concerned a little bit about the fentanyl that's in the shape of candy and looking like sweet tarts, vitamins, whatever. What can parents look for as far as anything suspicious in a child's bag when they come home?
Well, Tinker, this has been a problem, but it's not a problem in this area right now. I don't know if you read the article from Joliet on the corner there, mentioned just what you talked about there, and got knocked down very heavily by CNN, by Fox, by the Chicago channels, because there's no sign of it here. And to go out and tell people that you got to look in your candy wise, if it is fentanyl in there, you surely don't want to be touching it, you know. And I understand your point. But we've not seen that in here. The closest, talking to the DEA yesterday, the closest that's closest to our Illinois is New York. And they just put something out on that. So I've been, the radio station's been wanting me to go up there, and also the Journal. And I'm not going to talk about that right now because we don't have it in our area. But doesn't mean that it could come when it comes. I'll get at it, but I right now we don't see that right now.
Well, that's good. That's good to know that it's not in our area. And of course, I always worry about the children.
Well, absolutely.
Anything in their
my whole
candy.
staff of us worry about that constantly.
Yeah. I'm glad the parents, talking to the parents when I've been out in the neighborhoods, they're always happy to go to a neighborhood that they know is safe, and that they always bring their kids back to the safe neighborhoods. So I'm glad of that, and I'm just glad that we can keep that nasty fentanyl out of this area, because it's scary. It's scary.
It's really surprising how it gets into our area.
Yeah.
By UPS, post office, FedEx, those are some of the ways. And luckily we have an undercover KMEG that's out there working extremely hard on all this, so believe it or not.
That's great. Let's just keep it out of Kankakee County.
Mr. Snipes.
I would love to.
Good morning. There's an old adage through death and dying that a person, once they die, they can still hear for about 3 hours after death. Don't know how that's ever been proven, but it's cliche that's out there. But my question is, from the point that a person takes fentanyl and presumes to be in a state of death before you bring them back, how long can they be in that state before the Narcan now becomes ineffective?
Well, it's when your breathing stops, basically. A lot of things that we hear and I see and I talk to the family about, they've been snoring effect that they have, difficulty the breathing wise. Basically, Narcan there's no contraindication in that, so you can use that at any time. But as far as when their breathing stops, you won't have a chance unless you're doing CPR. You know, like they could bring it possibly back, but. And that's talked to when we talk about the Narcan program. That's talked in that particular program to make sure that they know, even if they're a diabetic, you know, you can give that Narcan. It's just but right now with fentanyl, you might have to use 3 or 4 to maybe 5 to 6 of them to get that person back. That's why we say, call 911, get an ambulance, get going there so you'll have more. Police officers carry 8 milligrams basically, and we're working on that. And I thank you for the question there, but that's basically, if you got somewhere that wants to learn that, we can get somebody there to help you at your church or wherever it is. Be more than happy to come out there and do that anytime.
Any other questions? Mr. Carrico.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. About Bob, I'd like to congratulate you for the all the work that you do in the community, educating people about drug addiction. My question is more associated to the line here that you have with the number of cardiac deaths. And so are you aware of any kind of educational program that we may have here in this county that will be connected to the improvement of our residents' cardiovascular system, and that way to prevent cardiac deaths? Do you know of any programs that are available right now?
I know both hospitals have programs on that. I've seen a couple of programs. I can check in on that to make sure that somebody else is not doing it. But I'm pretty sure that I know works with us on EMS. He does a lot of the cardiac, and I'm sure that there's somebody at that hospital, it's either one of them, that can do some type of a program.
Yeah, I see an increase from month to month on the cardiac deaths here, and I was not sure if it's something available that people can easily, have access to. I'm not talking just about, having your cholesterol checked or, or have your blood pressure checked. I was just more related to an educational process where they can learn a little bit more about proper eating habits and other issues that can actually be connected to the increase of cardiovascular complications. So are those programs, easily accessible to people? Where are those programs posted? How can people get involved with this?
I can tell you this, that and I think that I'll do it. I'll get at both of the hospitals. I know both of the teaching area where they'll be teaching this, and get an answer back to you very quickly, and where you can go to receive these programs, or they might even come out like I do.
So I know you're out in the community a lot, talking to people about different preventative measures. Is that something that you will maybe be interested in including in your visits to churches and etc., having a qualified individual to come and help to talk about those issues?
Yes, I would.
Okay, thank you so much.
I've been, we've been stopped because of the COVID, and
right.
But now it's wide open, and I'm going to go at it strong. Both Eric and I will give 100% out there, especially on the drug issue. That really bothers me.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Mr. Hunter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Bob, thanks again for availing yourself tomorrow with Rose brunch with the ministers. Theodis and I have been invited as well to attend. And I know that when you have come to the NAACP via my invitation, I learned a lot too. I thought I knew a lot about fentanyl and all that stuff, but you provided us with a lot of information, which was really, really helpful. And I look forward to your comments and presentation tomorrow.
I'll be there.
Anything else for the coroner? Thank you. Any old business come for the committee? Any old business? Any new business? Any new business? Mr. Kirkstra first.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn.
Ms. Peters?
I second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.